Wow, what an ending to Fulham against Liverpool. 1-1 going into 7 minutes of stoppage time. And it finishes Fulham 2, Liverpool 2. To look back on that one and to give you the other scores of the games that have just finished. Mark Donaldson and Janusz Michallik. Fulham 2, Liverpool 2. Harry Wilson opening the scoring for Fulham. Janusz Michallik putting a tweet out at half-time saying dire first half from Liverpool. What did we see in the second half from both sides, Janusz?
Start with what I said to you last week against Leeds, right? That Liverpool are an ordinary team. And this was just another confirmation of it, I suppose, right? Because even when Liverpool went 2-1 up so late in the game and you think 3 points in the bag, I think you and I have been would have talked about, okay, 3 points in the bag. But, where are Liverpool in comparison to what they were? I mean, here we are, defending champions, right? 14 points behind the leaders at this point. We're halfway through the season, and yet somehow they found a way to draw this game and dropped, what was 3 points. Now, Harrison Reed, look, I mean, that's a wonderful strike. That's a world-class strike. Nobody can do anything about it, but, we have to ask a question. How is it that in the 97th minute, you have a player like Harrison Ford, absolutely free, I don't want to say infernal goal, was ways, but still, so no pressure on the ball and all of that. So you look at this performance and there's so many question marks about Liverpool that I'm not sure where to begin.
I've called players by different names before as well, and it's kind of apt that you've just called him Harrison Ford.
Oh, Reed.
Harrison Reed, because Indiana Jones would have been proud of that ending. I mean, that was something. I'm just watching it back, and it's like there's no Liverpool player even thinking. He's not known for goal scoring. He's not scored for 3 seasons, but Chiesa's the closest to him. And I know we're doing this out of order, but it deserves a kind of mention of its own. It's top bins, it's top corner, it's postage stamp. But he's been given the opportunity to hit the goal of a lifetime by Liverpool deciding, you know what, we don't need to worry about him. And they just switched off apart from Chiesa. You've just scored through Gakpo to go 2-1 up. You've got to be focused, and Liverpool weren't.
Yeah, but I think that's, I mean, things like these happen when you look at the entire game and the lack of intensity, the lack of quality from Liverpool throughout the game, right? In the first half, forget the statistics because they were probably positive towards Liverpool. But in terms of that intensity and, I mean, there's no doubt that Arne Slot has not prepared this team physically and mentally for the battle. And now we're starting to hear from the likes of McAllister, look, I have given Arne Slot the benefit of that. And so did the hierarchy, right? When they went through that period where they were losing just about everything, home or away. And when we knew that this season is forgotten in terms of defending the title. But I think that hierarchy would be absolutely crazy if they're not looking at their options in terms of the manager right now. They would be. This is the first time I've said it about Arne Slot. I usually like to see a manager and the team pull themselves out, which Liverpool has done. But the form and the way in which they're doing it and playing it is worrisome. I mean, you talking about now, forget the patterns of play that don't exist, right? I look at the team, even the setup where everybody's changing position. I almost don't know how Liverpool are playing when I look at their formation to start with. And I'm starting to wonder if the players themselves know what they need to do. So I think at this stage, the question marks are there for everyone to see. And I'm, for the first time, starting to wonder if Arne Slot can organize that in such way where Liverpool are dominant once again.
So often last season, when Arne Slot and Liverpool won that title, they never knew when they were beaten. They found a winning goal from somewhere, a few times as well in stoppage time. Let's fast forward to this season. That's the 3rd time this season that they have given up a game-tying goal in stoppage time. That's basically chucking away 6 points. Only West Ham and Bournemouth have done the same. How do you go from a team that never knows when they're beaten or never knows when to quit to a side that suddenly gives up 6 points or loses 6 points, having given up 3 goals in stoppage time like this?
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, we can go player by player here, and I think it comes down to the basics. There isn't one player in form. The only player in form wasn't there, Kitika, right? I mean, pulled out of the squad, hamstring just in practice just before the game. Other than that, even Szoboszlai, who's been, I think, the most consistent, if not the best player on this team so far, I mean, as of late, has been just okay, and simply because he's playing out of position. He's here, he's there, he's just about everywhere, but probably not the way he wants to play. And I think, I alluded to what McAllister's play. They play differently. They're not prepared for that season. I think the dominant players from the past are nowhere near where they need to be. Look at the center backs. Again, the first goal today, Konate, right? If you're going to be that lazy when you're getting pulled out of shape by Jimenez and you go kind of, halfway there, then they play behind you with a one touch and, Harry, and Wilson scores that wonderful goal. Yes, Bradley could have done better and help because he was really, really wide instead of tucked in. But, you look at Van Dijk, well, I'm not going to blame him by, that offside slightly, that goal, was it not? But he certainly is nowhere near being dominant. He used to read the game. He used to be physical enough. Now, in terms of recovery, he's having problems as well. This is not the first game today, if you watched him closely as well. So I think that's an issue. It's not the issue that, towards the end of the games, they don't see games through, or like today, they were almost back to what we once knew last season and beginning of the season, where they found a way to win. And today, had they won, Mark, I just wonder if our conversation would still be the same, right? Mm-hmm. You would have been a great escape in a way, that you look at this Liverpool team and there's nothing to them. They found a win, 4th place, 12 points instead of 14 points away from Arsenal. But none of that would have changed, at least the feelings that I have about this Liverpool team right now.
We've gone from having the narrative of Liverpool finding a way today to having the narrative now of Liverpool finding a way to not find a way, having found a way. It sounds a bit convoluted, but they end up with a point. That's probably what they thought they were getting going into added time. We've discussed the 2 goals, the stunner from Harrison Reed, Cody Gakpo with his goal. Let's talk about the first 2 goals and the requirement of semi-automated offside to tidy this up. And for all the technology that we have, you can't argue with this. And it just shows you it's small margins, but it also shows you, as Don Hutchison was saying over here, our ESPN FC colleague in commentary, you play to the whistle, even if you think you're offside, whether it's Harry Wilson for the first or Florian Wirtz for the second. Just put the ball away and then let the officials and let technology sort it out.
Yeah, I mean, these decisions are so tight that, sometimes it's difficult to assign blame, right? I mean, setting up defensive trap, it's so difficult now. I remember, as a defender in my time, it was a little bit easier. Now, unless you're on the same page with everybody and you even take that extra step, half the time these players defensively probably think that they've done enough. They've done the right job, because when you look at across the line, you say to yourself, I'm even, but you don't know what even is. So that's craziness. You have to finish it. As you've said it, quite right. I thought my gut feeling initially on Wirtz was, that he was offside, but he wasn't. That was one of the positives. I look at that because I think that was Conor Bradley's run, right, which was positive, which is, again, another big pet peeve of mine in terms of Liverpool not playing well, because their fullbacks, and their fullback play in general has been absolutely horrendous, right? I've mentioned Kerkez. I feel for him, or I felt for him for a long time, but now, I mean, he hasn't had one good game. I don't know even how to approach this, right? Bradley is hardworking, sometimes gives you what he did on that goal, which was wonderful. But I wonder if that level is what's required for Liverpool Football Club. Mark, remember Liverpool at their best, Trent and Robo? Didn't they have that one season like close to 15 assists each? Mm-hmm. And that's where I start. I've started with the dominance of the defensive block because it was tremendous. Alisson's always great, although today, again, question marks on a couple plays. But, when you look at the back four and dominance of Van Dijk and even Konate or whoever else was next to him, And Trent, for all the things that we've said defensively about him, I mean, almost everything started with the fullbacks playing high and posing so many problems. Even the idea, when I think about changing the point of attack, remember Trent to Robo, so many occasions, how good they were. When I look at the back four right now, and fullbacks in particular, that's fundamentally for me one of the biggest reasons why everything else doesn't work, including, of course, the engine room. That's a problem. But, Trent, the ability to overlap and be a problem for the opposition. Mo Salah was so much better because he knew he could come inside. He knew the sort of threat, the 2v1 with Trent posed the opposing players. And Robo just getting to the byline, and every cutback almost perfect. Most of the crosses almost perfect. And look at Kirkus right now. He does get there, but everything is just a blind pass with a hope attached on the end of it.
I'm just looking at Liverpool's form and fixture since the start of December, drawing at home with Sunderland, losing that late goal to Tanaka to prevent them from getting a win at Leeds. Brighton and Spurs and Wolves, they took care of. Wolves was okay, but then they draw at home to Leeds, they draw at Fulham, and Stevie Nicol, who was in for you yesterday here on ESPN FC, says he, as a former Liverpool defender, fears for his old club going to Arsenal next time out. It's quite the drop-off.
No, it's tremendous. And look, the talent is there. And at some stage, I think you say to yourself, okay, this is not going to be the season to get them going, right? This is going to have to be a build-up. Get what you can get out of this season, which is, of course, Champions League top four. Perhaps do something in the Champions League. That's possible. That may set you up for all the players coming back healthy, right? McAllister didn't have a great start to the season because of the injury in the past. Maybe he gets going. Isak, we all know what's happening to him. Well, maybe he gets going. He's going to have plenty of time now to recover properly. Ekitike showing signs and all of that. Obviously, you get another center back or two, and things may change. But again, the question has to be asked, is Arne Slot the man that can get players better? Because at the very least, halfway through the season, you should be seeing that. You should be seeing some of these players that have been bought and disappointed. At some stage, we're 19 games into the season. So if physically they weren't ready, which I believe the preparation for the season wasn't good on the part of the coaching staff, physically. But now you think, well, they ought to be catching second wind a little bit, right? You got to see a team not, with energy, not lethargic. If I look at the Leeds game and this game, I mean, for such long periods of time, this was a team without any energy, really. Not a hungry Liverpool team that presses, that recovers the ball and all of that. So that is what worries me. And I agree with Stevie Nicol, because today, even had Liverpool won, this would have been deceptive. A bit of a Band-Aid, I think.
Finally, Fulham. What do we make of them? That's 5 in the Premier League without defeat, 3 wins, and then they've drawn their last 2. They're only 3 points off 5th. They're in 11th right now, but they're only a point ahead of Palace in 14th. What happens with Marco Silva? Is he still Fulham boss when they kick off next season?
I just got a feeling that may be just his level. I for some reason don't know if he's a manager of the top 4 teams, right? Seen that at Everton, we see it here. I think Fulham are exactly where they have been for the past 2 or 3 seasons, right? I'm sorry. Great start. Comes February, March, they drop off in the table. So I don't see anything more than that. It's good to see Jimenez busy. I mean, this is not the Jimenez before the injury, of course, that head injury. Harry Wilson, former Liverpool player, has been absolutely outstanding. We saw that last season, if I remember correctly, in particular coming off the bench, making an impact and scoring just about every game. He continues now in the starting 11. He scores goals, sets up. I mean, the first goal for Fulham, he's made it. So I think this is Fulham being Fulham. I don't see anything super different from them than I've seen, say, last season or the season before that. And I still think that Marco Silva is a proper coach for them.
I tell you what, why don't we give your voice a rest? I'll wrap up the rest of the Premier League games that kicked off at the same time. Igor Thiago getting a hat-trick for Brentford in a very impressive 4-2 win at Everton. Clean sheet for Newcastle and a couple of goals. They also scored some more, but they were disallowed by VAR. They beat Palace by 2-0. Spurs drawing at home against Sunderland. They were 1-0 up. Mickey van de Ven's deflection off Ben Davies giving Spurs the lead, but Brian Broby with a brilliant finish for Sunderland to send their supporters into rapture. They're one of the stories of the season so far. And still to come, Manchester City against Chelsea, which is just about to kick off. So if we give Janusz 2 hours to get that voice ready, him and Alexis Nunez, along with Sam Tai, will be back here at around about 2 hours from now with full coverage of that one. I'm trying to rescue your voice as best as I can. All I need you to do is say goodbye.
Bye now.
There you go. We'll see you in a couple of hours. Bye for now.